After the fourth discourse, Jesus and the disciples begin to move south, leaving the region of Galilee behind. The Pharisees catch up with Jesus once more to test him, this time asking about divorce. Then Jesus blesses the children, and he sets out again. He encounters the rich young man who doesn't want to give away all his possessions, and shares the parable of the workers in the vineyard to illustrate that the first will be last and the last will be first, and basically that our ideas of merit and deserving and fairness are not the criteria that God uses, and God is not obligated to do what we think is fair. Then they head toward Jerusalem. But the disciples continue to argue over position and who will be closest to Jesus, which is pretty tone deaf of them since Jesus has been trying to tell them about the pain and the trials that await him in Jerusalem. Jesus stops to heal the blind man on the road outside of Jericho and sends the disciples ahead to fetch a donkey and a colt for his entry into Jerusalem, with crowds of people greeting him, believing that he's a prophet and hoping that he will save and heal them. Jesus goes directly to the temple where he turns the tables of the money changers and heals people who come to him in the temple. But the chief priests and the teachers are angry, so he leaves and stays just outside of town in Bethany for the night. The next day, Jesus seems to be pretty tense. At least that's what I glean from the incident where he curses the fig tree because it doesn't have any fruit for them to eat. So he may also be feeling hungry when he returns to teach in the temple. The chief priests come and question his authority, so Jesus responds to them in stories. The one about two sons, the one who says yes but doesn't follow through, and the other one who says no, but then does what his father actually wanted. And the one about the vineyard, whose tenants refuse to pay and eventually kill the owner's son. The chief priests understand that Jesus is challenging and criticizing them and plan to arrest him. Jesus continues teaching the people, and even though the Pharisees and the Sadducees repeatedly pose tricky questions, they're no match for Jesus and eventually give up trying to catch him. Jesus tells the people that the Pharisees' teachings are solid, but to be careful not to follow their hypocritical example. He laments over Jerusalem and leaves the temple, and goes up to the Mount of Olives, where he shares the fifth discourse privately with his disciples. The fifth discourse contains Jesus' teachings about the end of the world as it is, and the final judgment. It starts at Matthew 24, verse 3, and continues through all of chapter 25. And as you know, Matthew 25 will be our focus in the next few weeks. Jesus' teaching in the fifth discourse is his last before his death. The chief priests and the leaders plan to have Jesus arrested and killed, so Jesus returns to Bethany, where his head is anointed with perfume. He eats the Passover meal with his disciples in Jerusalem. He prays on the Mount of Olives, is arrested, tried, executed, and buried. The two Marys witness Jesus' resurrection and share the news with the 11 remaining disciples that they should meet him back in Galilee. So they go, and the resurrected Jesus offers the final words of Matthew's Gospel. I hope this whirlwind overview of Matthew has been more edifying than bewildering. Please take a few minutes to reflect on the following questions as you think about all that we've learned in these 5 sections of the Gospel that we've looked at. What themes stand out to you from this overview of the Gospel of Matthew? How would you describe Jesus as presented in this Gospel? What is his purpose? How does he interact with people? Who or what are his enemies? What sort of personality does he display? How do you feel about this Gospel story? What questions are you left with?